Welcome guys to Group Work 5, where I'm just about to introduce you to the wonderful world of calculated columns and measures. So once again, the first step is to look at our objectives so that we're super clear about the tasks ahead of us and what's coming up. So objective number 1, we're having a look at creating calculated columns and how they differ from the calculations and formulas that we're used to when dealing with regular Excel columns. So next we'll be having a look at creating our measures. For those of you using 2013, they're displayed as calculated fields. And we're going to be doing this in the data model. There are a couple of ways to define measures, but in this section we're focusing mainly on creating them in the data model. And that's done in the calculation area. We briefly touched on the calculation area and how to display it way back in, I think it was Group Work 1. Then we'll create some pivot tables and we'll see just how measures display in the pivot table field lists and also in the pivot tables. So we've got lots to get through, but lots to get really excited about. We're certainly on our way, chaps, and I'll see you in the next exercise where we'll be creating some calculated columns. Right, so with no further ado guys, let's just crack on with Group Work 5, creating a calculated column in the data model. I'm currently on page 31 of the user guide. So with calculated columns, you can add new columns of data to a table in the PowerPivot data model. Let's just go over to the model window. Now all of the data that we have in the data model is in there as a result of either linking or importing data, but we can use calculated columns to define new columns of values. Let's just create a calculated column to see exactly what that means. So let's select the sales sheet and scroll to the right and select the first cell under Add Column. Our objective here is to create a new column of values that represents the margin, which is going to be the difference between the sales amount and the total product cost. So with that first cell selected, just like you do with normal Excel and a calculation, calculated columns and measures all start with an equal sign. I'm going to enter an opening square bracket and it's sales amount that we're looking for. Can you see that IntelliSense has kicked in? As soon as we entered that opening bracket, IntelliSense, which is the listing of all of the available columns in this table, in the sales table. So I'm going to start typing in sales because I'm looking for sales amount. When I see the column that I want, I can use the down arrow on my keyboard or I can select it with my mouse. Either way, when the column is selected, I'm going to use the tab key on my keyboard just to insert that. So I'm going to hit a space and the subtraction, a space again. You don't have to have spaces. Opening square bracket, and this time we're looking for total product cost. It's selected in IntelliSense and I'm just going to use my tab key because it's currently selected. You can see that we've got our calculation, our first calculated column guys, so well done. All we have to do is tidy up a bit. So we can double click on the default calculated column 1 and we'll change that to margin and hit enter. The column's selected and we'll just go up to formatting and change that to the currency of your choice. So that's your first calculated column guys. There's a couple of things to point out here. If I click in the first cell and up on the formula bar, we can see the calculation and it's equals sales amount minus total product cost. Selecting any of the cells, you can see in the formula bar that it doesn't change. So I can't edit any of the cells. That formula is for the whole column. Unlike in Excel where we have a column and we can edit and we can have a number of different calculations in one column, it's one formula per column. Let's do that again guys. So we're going to select a new cell in a new column And the first thing we'll do is right click. You can double click or right click and rename. I'm going to double click and type in margin % and hit enter. So we're going to calculate in this calculated column the percentage value between the sales amount and the margin. Now the margin is the calculated column that we've just defined, but we can use that measure when we're adding a new calculated column. So again, I've got my first cell selected. I'm going to type in equals and an opening square bracket. If I type in M for margin, it's the only column beginning with M in this table. So I'll use the tab key to insert it. I won't put any spaces in this time, just so that you can see that you can if you want to. It's not required. And the division, and it will be the sales amount that we're looking for. So again, opening bracket, sales amount is the first listed in IntelliSense. I'm going to use the tab key again. The square bracket has completed the column name and I can just hit enter. Finally, if I just select the column and up on the formatting, just select the percentage, and if I wanted it just to 1 decimal place, I can just decrease by selecting the icon. So fairly easy to do, just a few differences between regular Excel. Just to recap that we can only have 1 calculation per column. We start all the calculations with equals. We open up a square bracket and IntelliSense kicks in, and it makes it really easy for us to select the columns that are in the current table. Using the tab key inserts the field for us and makes life a lot easier. So calculated columns, really easy guys, but it's like anything, you just have to do it a couple of times yourselves. But we're going to have lots of practice. So I'm going to wrap this one up now. And next we'll be having a look at creating measures as opposed to calculated columns in the data model window. So I'll see you in the next video lecture.